This is the Veterinary Project Podcast, episode 007.
Welcome to the show created by vets featuring absolutely no pets. This is the Veterinary Project Podcast, hosted by Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light. Our resident veterinarians have swapped out their stethoscopes in favor of microphones to bring you the Veterinary Project Podcast, a show focused on real conversations, aimed to connect this amazing profession full of remarkable people. Through the sharing of collective stories and wisdom, and connecting over the many unique challenges we face, we invite you to join our community of veterinary professionals leading intentional lives. And now, here are the hosts of the Veterinary Project Podcast, Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I am your co-host, Dr. Michael Bugg, and with me, as always, my lovely co-host, Dr. Jonathan Light. What is keeping you busy this week, Jonathan?
Oh, it's been a busy week this week. A little bit of locuming in action. Then we had family photos last night. Some really good work with the Mosaic Veterinary Partners. It's been a full mishmash of adventures this week, Mike.
Yeah, you are. When I'm texting you or calling you, you're all over the place. Where were you locuming? Like what town or city were you in?
So I have been in a number of towns this week, of which some I can talk about and some I can't.
Oh, so mysterious. Wow.
So mysterious. I know. No, we're just looking at different opportunities, and part of that is going out and visiting those towns and cities. So it's been a good week. Lots of learning.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I won't put you on the spot too much with that. We have another amazing guest to dive into this week. But before I introduce her, I'm going to throw it over to you for our quick tip.
Excellent. My quick tip is not a quick tip, but a quick request. On our podcasts, or on Instagram, I should say, you have the ability to put comments in. For Mike and I, being about a month and a half into true podcast publishing, I want you guys to go in there, share what you're enjoying about the episodes, but also the feedback. If there are different guests that you think we should be having on, or if you think Mike and I are horrible interviewers, we want to hear about it.
Oh man, we're going to lose our job here, Johnny. We're going to get voted off.
Well, look at that. We lose it before we even got going that much. But no, want to have some fun with this. We'll come up with a prize for the best comments through. So that is our quick tip today. Back to you.
Okay, and I will, now you've put me on the spot, I'll get an Instagram post up so they can comment on it. So with us this week is actually a guest that both Jonathan and I knew quite well through vet school. It's Dr. Stephanie Van Deynze-Snell. So Steph is a 2011 WCVM graduate and a clinic owner since April 2012. So you can do the math there of how quickly she progressed from graduating into clinic ownership. And then to add on to that, a mom as of November 2012. She's adamant about making a positive impact on the veterinary industry by running a progressive veterinary business and leading by example of what is possible. She's learning to enjoy the platform that a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree has given her, allowing her to pursue her passion for helping people and using the flexibility that the chosen profession allows to create her family's ideal life. Currently, this includes spending as much time as possible with her co-owner husband, Dr. Deynze-Snell, their 3 young children, doing all the family things. She aims to help others involved in the veterinary business by sharing what she has learned over her past 8 years, from personal development to business management and operations. So in this episode, we dive in right at the point of her graduation and kind of the whirlwind adventure that her and Dave went on in buying a clinic so quickly, then dive into what that all entails with also being a mom and how her roles as a veterinarian started to change as she moved into more of the business owner capacity. And we finish with one of Steph's personal mantras of doing veterinary business better. So without any further ado, I give you Dr. Stephanie Van Deynze-Snell. All righty, Steph. Really good to have you on. Obviously, the three of us all go way back. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I did some running around and now here I am with you guys. So excited to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we're really excited. Both Jonathan and I, when we were talking about trying to schedule you on here, we know how busy you are. So thank you for carving some time out to chat and share with everyone.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So we want to dive in. We're going to get right into it, Steph, because we got lots to talk about with you. And we're going to jump all the way back to right when you graduated. So you are a 2011 WCVM graduate. And in less than a year out of vet school, you jump into clinic ownership. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you have the courage? What kind of thought process and how did you make that leap so fast?
Yeah, well, okay, so I guess you guys know my husband, Dr. Deynze-Snell, and we had dated through most of vet school, and then we had that, like right after I graduated, then we were married. But we had often talked about how we wanted to own our own clinic one day, and then this opportunity came up, and it was sooner than we had, kind of anticipated jumping into ownership. That was more kind of like the 5 to 10 year plan. But it was just a really good opportunity. It was kind of in a good location, close to a city. It was in my home province, which was a plus for me and negative for Dave. But it was the kind of practice that we wanted. The potential was there. And basically for me, because I'm really, one thing that really drives me is really not wanting to miss out on good opportunities. So we kind of made the jump earlier than we would have probably if maybe that opportunity hadn't come up. We did do our kind of, we looked around Alberta and a few other places just to see, like, would we want to put up a practice here or here, just kind of our due diligence to make sure it was what we really wanted. But at the end of the day, that was the decision, was to jump into that. It was, it wasn't actually really that scary. I think looking back, Dave and I were like, if we would have known it was going to be so hard, maybe we wouldn't have done it. I think we were just kind of blind ambition, like, let's do this, like, let's take on the world, we can do this. So that's basically
ignorance
that was
is
basically
bliss.
the thought process.
Kind of ignorance is bliss sort of thing. That's funny.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then I would actually say we practiced a whole year before we were like, holy shit, we have to run a business, to be honest. Because it was a business that was established. We were like, oh yeah, we know how to work hard. We'll just go in there and work hard as vets. And then it was honestly probably a whole year at least before we were like, holy crap.
And how many vets were there when you came into ownership at that practice, Steph?
Yeah, so there's just the two.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the owner and then one other small animal vet. And that's kind of how we got into it, because I had a good relationship with the previous owner. And we were actually, because we were getting married, I'd given him a call to see like whether he was coming to the wedding or not, because I had invited him because he was a mentor of mine. And he's like, oh, I thought maybe you wanted to come work for us. And he's like, or maybe you want to buy my practice. And I was like, oh gosh, well, maybe I do. Like, let's hear more about that. So so there was the two. And then he had promised a new grad, which we knew, like I had like a good relationship with her. So she's still with us and just awesome. So we came on, and then like right away there was the 5 of us, like the 4, and then the new grad. Yeah.
Nice.
Wow. So, and just to sort of clarify the thought process. So were you and Dave, while you were still in vet school, already discussing, like, you had already mapped out clinic ownership was on the radar?
Yeah.
You graduate, and then this opportunity sort of semi-randomly presents itself, so you decide to move on it.
Yeah, like we both came from a family farm. So my parents always owned their own business. His parents always owned their own business. So it was just something we kind of wanted, for ourselves, for our future family. So it was always just kind of, it was always on the radar for sure.
Okay, nice. And so any advice for maybe someone that's in their final years of vet school, like, how do they do what you did and move so quickly into practice ownership?
Yeah, and I've thought about this lots. I'm actually a little bit jealous, I guess, right now for all the students, that are wanting this, and kind of like even like the young veterinarians that like want to get into ownership, because there's a lot of resources now. There's lots of vet communities. There's a few that are like right into practice ownership. There's all kinds of online resources. Lots more talk about like how to run a business kind of than there was when we started. So I'm super jealous like about what they have now versus what we had. So yeah, like I think, you can definitely do it. I would encourage people not to do it for the wrong reasons. Like I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to own a clinic, and it's kind of like an ego thing. So I would get them, like I would want them to kind of really dig deep to make sure, okay, do you understand what this is going to be like? Do you understand, like what it's going to take? And are you willing to do that? Because it is a different path than, practicing. You have to think about the whole owner side of things and owning a business. So, but definitely, like, you can do it. There's so many opportunities. So if you're excited about it, like, I don't know, I think you could even give it a try. If you don't like it, you could sell. Like it's not something I don't think people should be scared to do. Definitely. I think it's a really rewarding part, and it's a really awesome way to use that DVM platform. Like it's a really incredible way to make a bigger impact than just, kind of going to clinical practice and, kind of that one-on-one with your clients. So it's definitely exciting. Like if like you're up for the the challenge, then definitely it's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
But
I kind of want to repeat that, because I really think what you just said there is so powerful about making sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Because it can be easy to get caught up in business ownership is sexy and other people are doing it and I want to follow suit. So when you and Dave were sitting down, like, what was it for you guys? Sort of, you and I are both reading Start With Why right now. Like, what was it that inspired you and Dave to want to go for it, where you knew, yes, this is what we want, this will be our sort of passion and pursuit?
Yeah, and like, what's kind of strange about that is it really wasn't like it was just a feeling, honestly. Like it was honestly just kind of like, yeah, I think this is something we want to do. And then it wasn't until, kind of a few years in, when we were in some really uncomfortable, kind of situations where we were like, okay, do we actually want to do this? Like, this is really hard. And then we started really thinking, okay, no, like, I think this is what we want to do, but why? Like, how can we make this so it's not so terrible? And then like using like what we've done and like make the most of it now. So it honestly wasn't until later when like, even for myself, like where I really became passionate about like, okay, like vet business and leadership and all that stuff. So yeah, so that's a little bit of a different story, I know, for a lot of people, because I wasn't really passionate about those things until I got into it. And then I was like, wow, this is an awesome opportunity. Like, I love helping people. We can do these things. But to be honest, it was more just a feeling, and we were like, hey, let's do this. We can. And then we did it. So I know some people know right off the bat, but it was more just a feeling, to be honest.
Okay. No, that's fair. And I'm going to come back to that and all the amazing things you're doing now, sort of in a leadership capacity. I do want to touch on sort of that first year. So you said you're a new grad. I mean, everyone knows the learning curve of a new grad. You're a new business owner. And you had mentioned the first year you and Dave were just working hard. And, then it dawned on you, okay, we got to figure it out and sort of more systematize this. So how did you like get through that first year? And then when does it click, and what changes did you make to elevate to the next level?
Yeah. So I think, the easiest way is probably like a timeline. So we were driving out here in our U-Haul van, like, kind of leaving Alberta, and we were coming here to take over this business. And then a week later, we found out we were expecting our first child. And then, we worked really hard. And then I had our firstborn. And then I think I I stayed away for 3 months, and then I went back. We got, like a nanny to come to the house, and I went back to work. I think it wasn't full time. It was roughly 4 days a week, but again, just vet stuff. Like neither one of us was really doing any kind of owner or management stuff, just kind of having to put out the fires when we had to. And then we pretty quickly around that time, so maybe kind of later into 2013, we were running into a lot of like employee issues, and like the HR stuff was just like really, really sucking the life out of us. I'd lay awake at night and just, run over in my head, okay, like how do I talk, about this to this person, so that it's constructive, so that they improve. And I would just like, it would take me, whatever hours to figure out like what to do for one thing. And then, one of the things we always kept coming back to was like, okay, we don't even have space in our clinic, to be able to speak to these people. So one of the things we decided early on was that we had to renovate and expand the building. The building was already about 20 or like 30 years old, I think. So maybe like, yeah, it was about 30 years old. So anyway, we were like, yeah, we need to renovate, expand. So then that was my first kind of project as an owner. I was like, hey, like, let's design this clinic. Let's get this clinic built. And then so I did that, kind of in that year 2013. And then I remember we started to build in like the fall of 2015, and like we live on the same yard. So we were looking across at this clinic being built. And I just remember Dave saying like, what if we can't pay for it? And I was like, holy shit, what if we can't pay for it? And just that like major panic of like, well, like business has always been pretty good. Like, we did like kind of like the standard 3 to 5% growth each year. And then we were like, oh my God. So I actually remember like Googling, like, how do you make sure your business doesn't go under? And then what popped up actually was was like this free survey from Vet Practice Solutions. So then we ended up signing on with them. And then like, I learned like all kinds of things on how to make sure your business doesn't go under. So that was kind of the turning point for me. And that was like something I just like really sucked up a lot of that information, because it was what I was like wanting and craving and needing, because I wanted to do a good job. I just didn't know how. So that really helped, to connect a lot of like the lines and that kind of stuff. So that really helped us. And yeah, so we started working with them more like 2015, and that was the turning point. Like that was when I would say we really did start to actually, really take ownership and responsibility of leading these people, that were coming into work every day for us. And so that was a big turning point, I would say, is like, yeah. And then it will take some time, right? So it took about a year or so to really get some of those systems in place. And I would say by 2017, our business was like massively improved, just as far as the job we were doing, like being owners and managing the people and that kind of thing. So does that kind of answer your question? Yeah.
Sure does.
I mean, wow. I'm chuckling a little bit. We were all good friends in vet school, and I always remember, I don't remember exactly which Halloween event it was, but I remember you were dressed as like Superwoman, and I'm like laughing because it's foreshadowing. When I look at this list of accomplishments like 2 years out, you basically are Superwoman to do all of this. Like the number of hats you're wearing, it's impressive. Like any one of those is a full-time job, and you're doing, 3 of them: mom, veterinarian, business owner. And I didn't even know that you tackled like a project renovation at the same time.
Yeah. So, well, and I mean, I don't want to take 100% credit for all those hats, because actually one of the things I did, which was actually like a really hard point for me, and just really like there was a few years there that were really uncomfortable, as far as like we were just stretched to our limits.
Yeah, how do you
we hardly had any time to talk, Dave and I. It was just crazy. But it was after I went back, like after our second daughter was born, and then I went back, but we were doing the renovations, and I was still trying to do 3 days a week of actual DVM work, and also manage this project. And then I was starting in with some of the Vet Practice Solutions stuff. So I was trying to get into some management leadership role and get some traction there. And like, I was just empty. Like I was so empty. Like I had nothing left. And I remember saying to Dave, I'm like, something has to give. And I'm like, I can get other people to do the vet work, but no one else can do the, kind of like the renovation project like I want, and like no one else is gonna like own this clinic. It's either you or me. So like who's gonna do it? And like Dave's like a rock star vet, and really like he was working like at least 60 hours a week at that point, like sometimes up to 80. And it was just like, well, a lot of the production, you know, depended on him at that point. So yeah, so I kind of fell into the ownership role, the manager role, and like I had to let go of the vet stuff, which, you know, I don't know, like I know you guys probably have experienced some of this too, and like there's that guilt and that like, well then like what are you doing? Like why don't you get someone else to manage the clinic and keep doing the, like it was just, and I still struggle sometimes.
Yeah, you've gone to school for 8 years and now you're not using those technical skills on a day-to-day basis. And
yeah, so that was a kind of a hard time, and like a I guess like a lonelier time, because even Dave, like I don't know, to be honest, he was kind of like, well no, you have to keep doing the vet stuff or like no one's going to take you seriously. And then it's, you know, it's like such a fixed idea in the industry. It's crazy, like it's such a fixed idea, because this is what I was thinking, John, because could you imagine when you were working, like, you know, kind of managing all those people with VCA, like if on top of everything they were like, hey, and then here's your schedule for the day, you have a full schedule of like appointments with clients, like would that have been possible? You know what I mean? Like
not in the least. And you wouldn't have been able to provide the leadership that you wanted, nor the processes and systems which you've spent so many years now developing. And that takes time, that takes thought, that takes active listening, of which when you're seeing clients day in, day out, it's not possible. And that unfortunately is still the norm in our world right now.
Yeah, and like honestly, I think it's a huge source of like major burnout, especially for clinic owners. And then I think with clinic owners, what happens is, you know, they get angry and bitter, and then that just feeds off like how they treat their staff. And it's like, well, no one wants to work hard, and it's like, well, like, you know, it's just kind of, I don't know, it's an interesting feedback that it doesn't have to be that way, right? Like I just think more and more we're learning how to do it better, but I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
And I think what you said there, the guilt and the stigma, I imagine there's people listening to this that are like, ouch, like that is me. You're talking to me right now. How did you move through that? Like letting go of the guilt, dealing with sort of the stigma that's out there that you have to do both. You know, how did you come to the conclusion and have the courage to say, no, this is what's best for me, my family, our practice, this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. I I was, like I said, just like really empty, really low. And also, you know, the same thing was happening to Dave. Like he was just like, he would come home and just not talk. Like he was just empty too. He would spend 60 hours, and like sometimes he'd work like a couple weeks in a row, you know, kind of 60-hour days. And we were both so empty. So there was a part of me too where I was like, okay, like, you know, like I want to see you, like I want your kids to know you, and like I really don't want to, in, you know, whatever 30 years, look back and be like, wow, this whole practice is dependent on you working 60 hours a week, you know, most of the year. And so there was a selfish component there where I was like, okay, we need to make this practice, you know, kind of really be owner independent. So it doesn't matter if you and me are doing DVM stuff, we still have this practice. So, you know, there was a selfish component there, and like I was just really empty, really done. And I just kind of really had this vision. And a lot of it was, you know, kind of what I learned through Vet Practice Solutions. They helped me, you know, kind of, you know, they really supported me in that, like, no, like you need to have like an owner independent practice if that's what you want. And like, they really encourage, you know, like the owner has to be an owner, because the business comes first and you come first, you know, kind of as the business owner, because otherwise the business doesn't run, and there's all these people that, you know, kind of really aren't being treated properly. So, you know, if you really always kind of really think about it that way and always remind yourself of that mindset, it helps. But you have to actually go and like, you know, kind of whatever, seek the people out that are going to talk to you like that, because I find, you know, like right away, you go and you talk to family or, you know, kind of other friends, like even from vet school or not, where they're like, what are you doing? Like, you know, they just don't get it. And like, they're questioning you. And then like, you're kind of wondering like, what am I doing? I don't know. But so you really have to seek out those support groups that are, kind of more in alignment with your vision and like, you know, something you really strongly believe in. So I think that helped me. And then of course, Dave came around when he started seeing, you know, the positive impact that like working on like the management systems and stuff really yeah, kind of did. And then also we often look at numbers too. So then we're looking at the numbers go up and we're like, okay, this is working. Like this is obviously a better choice. So, and then I was happier. So we were all happier once we had more space and time and just like less off our plate as far as trying to juggle too much. So it was a little bit of everything, but it was hard. And it was like, this is over the span of a few years, right? It's not like it was overnight, but.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's amazing. I don't think it's selfish at all, especially when I look and I see what you and Dave have accomplished and the impact you're having. Arguably, you wouldn't be able to have that impact if you didn't have the awareness to first step back and take care of yourself, you know, and set that practice and business up to have this success.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think it's just, yeah, like it's definitely like a leadership thing. And I mean, and I don't know, like if you think of anyone, they only have a certain amount of, you know, kind of energy on there. I always draw like a bar graph and I'm like, you know, this is where my energy is at. And like, if you have no energy, you can't do anything. So you have to, I don't know, yeah, like you have to take charge of that, right? I don't know, like I'm a huge, you kind of advocate of really, you know, this is the situation you're in, you know, you have to own it. Like, what are you going to do about it? And I think for us, it was really uncomfortable. And I was really adamant on being like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but it's not always going to be this way. Like I am going to like claw my way out of this and like use everything I've learned to come out on top, you know, and basically kind of end up in a better place. So like I was really adamant about that too and pretty stubborn about that. So that helped as well. But
I like it. So I know you and Dave were in this together, but specifically, how do we, and by we, I mean like the veterinary collective, the veterinary community, help sort of support women in that role, right? That are going into ownership and also choosing to have a family. Because we've been talking about veterinarian versus business owner, which is a massive undertaking. Now throw 3 kids on top of that. And I literally sit here baffled at how you've managed to do it. You know, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, this is a great question. I love this because I was just speaking with an acquaintance like a few weeks ago on, you know, how we have to support, like, you know, when we have women in leadership. And like, it's not just getting women to apply for these leadership positions, which, you know, kind of in the current state of things is really difficult because, like I said, zero energy with all the kids and like, we're still responsible for most of the house stuff and like that kind of stuff as well, right? So we just have no energy. We're like, one more thing on our plate, no thanks, right? So that's the current, you know, that's kind of the current state of things. But so it's like, how do we get women to apply for these leadership positions? But also like, how do we structure these, you know, kind of businesses and these organizations so that women in leadership can really thrive, right? And then that kind of got me thinking, because I was like, well, yeah, like what would that look like? Okay, like flexible hours, right? And there'd be the opportunity for growth, you know, kind of really, even if you're taking off time with the kids, like there'd be that flexibility with like, that like you could discuss with your boss, like, okay, like if I like hammer out these 10 hours and I really work on my soft skills and I can get through these many appointments with a high quality medicine practice, you know, then I want this for commission, and like that kind of stuff, just so you're meeting, you know, kind of like your financial goals as well. So having that good, transparent relationship with your bosses, and then having the support from home. So, you know, basically they know like, hey, you need to get a cleaner, you need to get like, you know, some childcare, maybe get a meal service and some laundry service, like, and don't feel bad about it. This is what you need so that you don't burn out, right? Like just like removing some of those stigmas. But then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, so like that kind of work environment, that would also be very beneficial for, you know, kind of the dads. Mm-hmm. And really, like, let's say it's someone that doesn't have kids, that would be beneficial for those people too, wouldn't it? So I'm kind of like, okay, so we're talking about like structuring these businesses so that they support women in like leadership positions, or like women in business, or like the mom DVMs and stuff. But I honestly kind of feel like those structural changes will actually benefit everybody, because like it's just crazy right now, because men often it's like, oh yeah, no, I just have to keep going. But like really, because I guess going back to you guys again, like when you guys were in practice, would you say that the jobs you were in, like how would that have been like now that you're dads, like what would that have been like did you feel supported that like you'd be able to be like, yeah, I got to go get the kids or whatever it is? And I always wonder about that.
I've had different situations. I can only speak to two main roles with VCA Canada. I didn't have an issue whatsoever because there was a lot of young families in that management leadership roles. And that was one of the things that was actually attractive within the organization. Yeah. But then when I was in an emergency practice, there wasn't a chance. You have your scheduled hours by the month, and if you're not there, you don't have a position. And the same thing in my locum capacities. You're taking on those locum roles, and there's not really an opportunity to have flexibility other than what you don't or do schedule.
Yes. Yeah, because I actually think locuming like would be an awesome gig for a mom, because it's just like, you know, you line up your childcare, you line everything up, you hammer out some hours. I don't know. I think that would actually be a really nice position for a mom.
It can be, and it's another area that we need to have some discussion on the project here, because there's so many pros to it, but there's some negatives that are, I think, brushed over, which we need to go into some more detail. And some of it surrounding team and some loneliness and some of the caseload that you take on as a locum and what that fill-in looks like. But there's a lot of positive to it. And then in a mother capacity, yes, I think, or dad, you know, being father to two kids, it provides flexibility for sure.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's inevitable at this point. Like there's been enough conversation around the old way that veterinary practices kind of ran just isn't cutting it anymore. Correct. Everyone knows that change is coming and that change is happening. And I know, Steph, in following you, especially online, kind of your personal mantra is doing veterinary business better. And that's when I'm following you and I'm seeing your posts and what you're doing. It's so inspiring. And, you know, in this conversation, so we've started with you as a grad, you came in, there was an owner and one other. Where is your business at now? Like size of veterinary clinic, number of staff, number of doctors?
Yeah, so we just hired our, like, I guess, ninth ninth doctor, if you don't count me, because otherwise there's 10, I guess, but I don't practice. They're not all full-time, so it's roughly 8.5, kind of full-time equivalents. And I'm looking at one more. So that's kind of, and then we just kind of hit the like roughly 200% growth, like as far as like revenue or whatever. So if that kind of, so that's kind of what we've done. So we grew, and I really can't remember how many actual staff we had when we started. I don't remember. I think it was like 15 maybe, but now we have like closer to 40.
Yeah. And you need more space. You know, we were speaking about that last week.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. Like actually right before this whole thing with COVID hit, like I was actually looking, like we had met with the municipal, like the office that, you know, kind of gives the permits and stuff to see what we're allowed to do as far as expanding on the building again. And but now I'm actually like, oh, hey, we can work from home. Let's look at this option. It's a little bit more, a little less expensive, but so now I've kind of changed a little bit, like what my plan is there. And I've looked at the space we have and I'm like, oh, I can squeeze a workstation in there, you know, so it's a little bit different, but so that's been the growth and I would say just the biggest difference has been like the employee, kind of satisfaction. I would say like we hardly have any turnover, which I'm just something that's, I don't know, like, I don't mean to be like, you know, kind of boastful, but it is something I'm really proud about. I know there's lots of clinics that have a hard time hiring, but like we don't. And it's, again, like, I don't mean to be boastful, but like, this is the result of, you know, making sure that you have like a good structure in place, that you have those good building blocks, right? You have a good organization, you train your staff, you are generally nice people, you know, you don't allow like a negative work environment, you know, and like that kind of stuff. Plus, you know, we're always looking at, okay, like what can we do for benefits? Like, what do you guys need? We're super flexible with our schedule, that kind of stuff. So anyway, that just goes to show like, that's kind of the effects of it, right? And like the clients see that too. Like we have awesome clients. Like I know there's clinics that really complain about the clients, but I'm like, we have like, I mean, here and there's one, right? But in general, like our clients are awesome, you know, so it's been really fun actually kind of seeing it, and it just makes everything more fun. So
and I mean, I don't feel like it's boastful at all to see where you came from, the work you've put in, and now you're just sort of reaping the rewards from all that hard work. It makes sense. What would you say, and I'm kind of curious about this, like if you had to pick one or two of your favorite sort of structural changes that you and Dave brought in, what has had the most impact, from in creating that clinic culture?
Okay, yeah, so definitely more leadership. So before, like the first few years, we would have a staff meeting, like, I don't know, once every 6 months, like, kind of as needed. And what we do now, but right now, again, with the changing times, it's a little bit more online, but like what we were doing and like what I still do, I touch base every week. And then right now, as we've gotten bigger, we've really dived into like making sure our team leads are really giving that like leadership on like a more focused level. So with their own individual teams, they'll have kind of a meeting once a week where they're asking like, hey guys, like what can I bring to the rest of the team leads that like you guys are experiencing that are making your day hard? And then they like give the feedback from the other team leads. They're like, hey, like we need to make sure we're doing this, and this better. And then, just some announcements so everyone's on the same page with stuff like, hey, remember that like now we have this new product and like this new service or something. And then that's, kind of with the team leads. And then the team leads meet once monthly to do like a bigger, kind of whatever goal setting thing where we're like, hey, like what do we want to do this month? Like let's get this service like, kind of up and running, or that kind of stuff. And then we also have really myself and then a couple executives that are like have a really good kind of executive presence, and like what I think Vet Practice Solutions calls it, it's like an ethical presence. So basically they're just awesome people. Like they are like amazing at holding that standard, because I don't know, because you guys have probably experienced it where it's like really most people want to work and they want to do a good job, but what happens is there's maybe like 1 in 10 people that will like maintain that standard no matter what, like until you tell me otherwise, I'm doing this. But for the majority of people, it's like, they slowly like, they get a little sloppy or whatever it is. Yeah. So like as far as like having these team leads and this executive presence to just maintain, no, yeah, we're still doing this. Like, yeah, just keep going. So that's really made a difference. And then I like meet with my executives just like again once a week, and then we go over like the bigger things. So basically like, hey, like this is happening, like what do we want to do as a team? And we really make sure like, kind of like like Dave and I and the executives are just on the same page, because if there's any cracks in there or if there's anything that we don't agree, it's like then everyone notices that. So it's always like, okay, like what are we putting out there as the executive team, that kind of thing. So and that kind of goes down with the team leads as well, where we're all kind of on the same page. Like, let's be like a, like
unified,
like a fortress, right? And it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. So that's really helped. And then the other thing that's really helped too, I think, is training and like organization. So if that makes sense. So we're really into like flow lines and like, how can we make this more efficient, and removing like the bottlenecks and that kind of stuff, because they're really good people that like to work. They like to like work efficiently, right? So, if we want to attract those good people, we have to have a work environment that is like really fun. Kind of really fun to do their work, right? So, we're really into like kind of organization. Training is a big one, making sure that they know what's expected. There's still some holes there. Like I don't know, like I'm hard on myself. I'm not where I want to be yet with the clinic, but like I know like where I want to be and we'll get there. But some setbacks now with coronavirus, but
yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead, Johnny.
Can I jump into one specific? And I think this is really useful for practice managers, veterinarians, techs, etc., that may be listening to this. And specifically, when you're meeting with your teams, are you doing that as morning huddles? Are you specifying a time in the week that is cast in stone? We shall meet here and nothing shall block it. And then is that set up as a monthly? How do you do that within your clinic? You have a mixed animal practice where there's out calls, there's in calls, there's everything that comes up emergency wise. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so I mean that's a good kind of mention for the morning huddle. So we also do those kind of every day, because we have vet teams working together. We call them the vet team. So there's a vet, and then there's support, and they have their appointment schedule for the day. And it's like yeah, that's all they kind of do that day. And then all the other stuff, like, the prescriptions and other stuff goes off to like another kind of RVT team. But so they huddle every morning to be like, okay, like who's handling what, like, okay, you start this appointment. So like lots of communication at the start of the, kind of the day, and then at the end of the day too, to make sure everything's wrapped up as it should be. So that's just kind of an expectation that they're going to do that, kind of at the start, at the end, and kind of as needed throughout the day. And then we also, have it set. So again, before we were split teams with coronavirus, we did kind of every Thursday at 1. We blocked off, I think it was a couple hours we blocked off because we did like the whole hour staff meeting, and then we went to our team lead meetings. So every Thursday we did the 2 hours, and then I did like I called it the breakfast meeting for the team leads. I did once a month, and again scheduled in, and I think we scheduled like 3 or 4 hours. And again, I hear people say like, oh, that's like a big waste of time. You could have done this many appointments, but it's so worth it. Like it really is, because everyone just comes out that much, kind of more efficient, stronger. You're making less mistakes. So it's totally worth it.
And you have your front then you're on the same page. You've dealt with your disagreements. You've dealt with your pros and cons to whichever service you're working on for that month. And the ROI on that can be massive.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to hear that, because I receive a lot of pushback on that in many different places where, well, we can't do that. We can't block because there's emergencies that are going to come in, or we're going to be missing people. And once that habit is in place, nice to hear.
Because it does still happen. Like I would say, like when we were doing that, like maybe 3/4 of the team would be able to attend. So we would really try to schedule the whole team as much as we could on Thursdays. And then it would just be like, the people that weren't scheduled, sometimes they would, kind of FaceTime in. Sometimes they wouldn't. And then the guys on the road, like if they weren't back yet, or like occasionally too, there was an emergency. So there's a vet team that, was taking up there. But then what we do is then, I have the minutes, and then I post the minutes, and I, like I actually tag, and you have to check, if you weren't there, you have to read them, and you have to check that you read the minutes. Nice. So it's just kind of like a system to make sure that, again, that everyone's on the same page. Again, because like it's just, I don't know, like I think it becomes more and more important the larger you get to, because like with this many people, like you don't see some of them like every day for sure, even every week, you don't see someone, so they need to make sure that they're following up that way and acting like a team member, right? Like we're a big team, so they have to do their part.
Yeah, you nailed it. You took the words out of my mouth, Jonathan. I can hear people pushing back and saying, I'm too busy to do that. I'm too busy to block this time. What would you say, Steph, to like someone that's listening and is thinking that in their head, and they're not going to get to see the ROI until they take the leap of faith and do it? Like, how did you get all your team to buy in, and how do you get the listeners to buy into setting this up for efficiency and success?
Yeah, well, I mean, like the team loves it, right? Like I think the team loves it. Like I can't see really anyone on the team kind of not wanting it. There's the occasional vet that's like, okay, good, there's a staff meeting, I'll I have an extra hour to extend these messages, or like work on like medical records, and I just won't show up, but I actually physically go around the clinic and I'm like, time for staff meeting, like let's go. So I mean, so again, it's just maintaining that standard, right? And then but yeah, like the practice owners, I think, I don't know, this is just like one of the easiest things you can do to like better engage your staff. And I mean, like you want to make sure that you're structuring your meetings too, so it's not just like a complaining, kind of fiesta or whatever you want to call it, because I think, I don't know, because I've experienced that before too, where we would have weekly staff, like this was a while ago in a practice, I think even actually maybe this practice, I can't even remember where it was, but it would be like everyone would just complain for half an hour, and it was like, whoa, that wasn't constructive. So so again, like the meetings are very like we go over like the wins from the week. We're like, hey, all these awesome things happened, and then we talk about the problems and like what we're going to do about them, and then we talk about any like announcements, so everyone's on the same page, and then we go over like, okay, next week these are the things we're doing, like this is what you have to expect, like it's like it's like the start of dental health month, so make sure everyone reads the memo on like what we're doing. So it's just kind of like that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
And then we go over some like some stats sometimes. Like one of the big things we're really tackling right now is like our write-offs. If that makes sense. So that's like one of the things every week now I'm like, hey, this was the number this week. Sometimes it's like $12,000 were written off, and it's like, oh my God. Plus I explain to them, I'm like, okay, so this is why this is bad. Like, this is why when you guys misbill, misinvoice, waste products, like this is why it's bad. So like I'm very transparent with them as well, right? So I don't know, I think that helps too. But yeah, so we'll go over that stuff as well. And then it's like, hey, we got our goal or whatever, if it's like where we want it to be. But
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Steph, I looked down at the clock. I suspect we will be tapping you on the shoulder to come back someday, because there's so much we can dive into and so many avenues. And we know what you and Dave are doing out there is just fantastic. Like following along, I know Jonathan's been to your clinic. So it's nice seeing people kind of leading the way. But yeah, it's time for us to dive into our impact round. So a series of questions we're going to throw at you. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at them or not, but we'll find out.
We'll see.
So question number 1, are you a cat or a dog person?
I'm a dog person.
Dog.
Yeah, because they can feel love, right? It's a little bit more of a mutually beneficial relationship. But I love kittens. I think that's the cutest thing to watch, is like a kitten playing. That's like, yeah.
Oh, yes. True or false? I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian since I was a kid.
Yeah, so that's false. So I basically was in my kind of undergrad at the University of Manitoba, and I was doing a biochemistry degree, and I was like, I don't want to work in a lab the rest of my life. Like, what else can I do? And I started kind of volunteering at this clinic actually that we ended up buying, and I was like, holy man, this is an amazing, kind of like amazing profession. So I applied and I got in. I was lucky to get in right away. So
nice. How would your friends describe what you do for a living?
I think they'd probably say that, yeah, like we own a vet clinic or like I own a vet clinic, or like I run a vet clinic is probably what they would say.
Okay, nice. What is your favorite hobby?
Oh, who has time for hobbies? That's always something. Like I have a hard time making myself stop, like reading books and like looking into stuff. Like I have a lot of kind of ideas, and I get really excited about certain things. So I kind of go off like kind of into my own world there. But I do like being outside with my family. So I like being on the water. I like swimming. I like walking outside. So is that a hobby? I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Getting in nature. Yeah.
Yes. There we go.
What in this world are you most grateful for?
Oh, my kids. I really am. They're amazing, right? Well, you guys know, your dads. It's like the greatest thing ever.
Agreed. It's pretty fun. Yeah. Okay, Steph, thank you so much for carving out some time out of your schedule. It's been awesome having you on. If anyone is interested in getting a hold of you, how can they reach out and how can they get connected with you?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess I am on Instagram. I'm giving this a try. It's nothing very professional. But what's my hand? I think it's at what is it? It's like Doctor, and then there's a period, Stephanie, and then I think _ Van Dynes _ Snell. So you can direct message me there, I guess.
Okay.
Be a good place.
Okay, nice. And we'll put that in the show notes. And I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit there. I mean, I follow along. I think you put out some awesome and impactful and inspiring stuff. So
thank you.
I agree with Mike completely.
That's encouraging. Thanks, guys. That's really nice.
Yeah. All right, Steph. Well, the final word goes to you. What message do you want to leave for the veterinary community?
Okay, so I am a big, like a huge advocate for not staying complacent. So if you feel like, there's something that needs to be improved, I think you should go for it, because there's lots of room for improvement in our industry. It's an amazing industry. So I think we need lots of people speaking out, and for all you moms out there with zero energy, still try, I guess, because I think a lot of us have good ideas. We're just so empty, but keep working towards, kind of reaching out and making it a better place to be for all of us, right? For the greater world, really, because it's such an important part of everything.
Thank you for listening to the Veterinary Project Podcast. As a recap on behalf of our hosts, the Veterinary Project Podcast will be releasing new episodes weekly, so be sure to tune in as we bring you more conversations aimed at helping you enjoy a life well lived. If you enjoyed what you heard on the show and you want to stay in the know, please like, love, and or subscribe to the podcast on the listening platform of your choosing, as we're available on all the usual suspects. If you know of others that may benefit from these conversations, we'd love it if you please share the show with them, as this will help us grow our community to reach more and more veterinary professionals. Speaking of which, if you are a veterinary professional and would like to get connected with more like-minded individuals who are joining us on this journey, please send an email to the veterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll invite you to be a part of our private Facebook group. General feedback, requests for information, or perhaps requests to be a guest on the show can also be sent to the veterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com. Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light, thank you for listening to the show, and we'll catch you again next week for another episode of the Veterinary Project Podcast. Bye for now.